FM News Talk 97.1.
On demand audio.
I Dream of Joshi.
Shibani, I understand you have a little tiny baby. Well, maybe not so tiny, but with you right now. Is that correct, my dear?
Yeah, my almost 2-year-old sounds like a baby. So yeah, we have that going on.
I have a 2-year-old also, and yes, they do. Yes, they do. They're just now getting their sea legs when it comes to talking, and you're hearing a little bit, and sometimes you're just hearing blah 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 blah.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of thing. All right. So anyway, we've got a lot to talk about. First of all, we'll begin with the futures before we get to the Facebook IPO and Apple. But what about the futures? I'm hearing they're down as we go in because of what happened in France over the weekend with the election.
Yep, absolutely. You know, it's not necessarily a good sign for this country that one of the leading nations in the world, France, is hiring, and we've talked about this on this program before, has elected a socialist president now that's going to go and set an example and possibly set that country behind, bring it back in terms of progress, in terms of where Europe is going, and in terms of negotiations with our own nation. And so that's one of the things that's looking to drag down the markets. And then we still sort of have a hangover from that jobs report that we got on Friday. Again, the headlines say one thing, but if you look into the numbers, you really see that what we have is a problem where Americans are discouraged and falling out of the workforce. That's why we see unemployment ticking down. But this nation, in order to be as great and as rich and prosperous as we can be, has to have people motivated to work, and we're not seeing that right now, and that's a really big problem.
Yeah, no doubt. And, you know, this new guy in France is on record as saying he actually dislikes rich people. I mean, he dislikes them.
He dislikes them, and he's taxing them. I mean, he's put out proposals of taxing the rich in France up to something like 70%, 60%.
Yeah.
And even still, those people elected him. There's something about that socialist sort of movement that even still, and this hatred against rich people that motivated the French citizens to elect this man. That's a dangerous sign, if you ask me. I mean, I know you've talked about it. I've talked about it. We talk about it on Fox Business all the time, this whole concept of, you know, getting something for nothing. Should the government be this agent for socialism or not? We're seeing signs of this all over the world. It's happening here. It's happening in Europe, too.
It's like when you talk about Russia, for instance, and then you had the fall of the Soviet Union, and they tried to practice a certain degree of capitalism, and suddenly you have Putin back, and it seems like it's the comfort zone of a lot of just human beings sometimes to want to go back into the cradle of government because they're just afraid, I guess, of independence, and that's too bad, and it's a sign.
And it is too bad. It's too bad that it's catching on everywhere, including this country. In order for us to move forward as a society, as a human race, we have to get off of our butts and not take handouts from the government. We've got to innovate. We've got to feel self-sufficient. We've got to provide for our own families. And what you're seeing is kind of a time warp, us going back in time. I don't think this is necessarily a period in history we're going to read about that we're going to feel altogether proud of.
Right, and even using as an example your 2-year-old or my 2-year-old, I mean, we would, if we just simply raised the 2-year-old based on how the 2-year-old would want to operate, the 2-year-old would never progress.
Oh, yeah, she'd be eating cupcakes and, cereal all day long if I gave her her choice. But
right.
But that's not what is in her best interest. And it's the same that goes with government and sort of the way that it's running things. It's handing out candy to everybody because it wants to sweeten people's tooth and their palate ahead of an election. And that's not necessarily the best thing for developing people and developing this nation into the best it can be.
Right on. All right, the Facebook IPO.
And the Facebook IPO, we are on Mark Zuckerberg watch today, the Investor Roadshow. Basically, the company will be pitching itself to investors and to Wall Street, trying to give it its best sell job. It will start today in New York City, which is where I am, and run for the next week to week and a half, and finally culminate a week from Friday in the biggest tech IPO of all time. Shares are going to be pretty reasonably priced. We believe somewhere between 28 and $35, although that price range can move. What's interesting is that this isn't going to be priced like a Google. This isn't going to be priced like an Apple. These are going to actually, if you're lucky enough to be able to get some shares, which unfortunately most of us will not be able to get our hands on, they're not going to be hundreds of dollars. And that's something I think that will make this offering a lot more appealing and bring a lot more excitement back into the markets. It's a company that everybody knows. It's got almost 1 billion people on it, and then it's going public. It's getting people excited about business again.
All right, Shibani, we'll be checking you on Fox Business Channel today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.